Hi Leah, welcome to your September reading. So, the month really begins for us as of the day before yesterday. With Mercury now being retrograde, we have so many planets in retrograde, and it is a time when most people are revising. But for you, you really want to not just look forward, but you want more. Some would even say that in September, you end up wanting too much. Let's put it this way. It's not that you want too much, but you do have a healthy sense of self, and you do feel like you just showing up is enough of a contribution. Okay? I'm not saying it's not. But when other people do the same, and don't make the extra effort and don't contribute, I think you take it personally. But if someone were to point that out to you, and I don't mean in terms of finances, and I don't mean in terms of material things in any way. This is an emotional thing, and specifically now we're talking about romance. So if you feel like you can just kind of phone it in, but you would very much like the other person to be vehement about their affections. This starts to look a little bit like it's more about control than it is about wanting to be happy. Which may explain why, even though on the outside right now things seem great, you may be having this strange sense of dread. Do you need other people to show up more for you than you do for them? Is that how it feels equal to you? Think about it. Let's put a pin in that. Let's come back. Now, you also have Mercury and Jupiter in opposition until the 23rd. So let's remind ourselves Mercury is in Libra and it's retrograde there. Jupiter's in Aries and it's retrograde there. So for you, especially if you're a Leo rising, this is about confusion amongst friends and romance. So there's many ways that this can play out. Okay? What do I mean confusion amongst friends and romances? You can confuse a friendship for a romance. You can confuse your romance for the person you're romantically involved with as having feelings for one of your friends. You can mistake one of your friends for having feelings for one of your romantic connections. It could be, this way, that way, all the way around. They're looking at your hose, you're looking at their hose. What's going on? I thought we were all friends. So the interesting thing about this is that it's not true at all. And it really is just this Mercury in Libra being super, super, super mixy. And mixy may really be the best word. There is an element to Libra that is unnecessarily dramatic, unnecessarily mixy, unnecessarily gossipy even. And it does get them in quite a lot of trouble. When you have Mercury in that sign, it will behave that way. And then when it goes retrograde, it's going to start behaving that way about things that aren't even real. Things that are really just linked more to a wound. So instead of looking at your friends sideways or your romantic interest sideways, look at yourself a little bit. Because it may be hearkening back to a wound having to do with worth, self-worth, and really has nothing to do with your friendship or your romances. So it's worth looking at. And, no one can say this to you. I can't belabor this point enough. If there's anyone that truly learns from this medium of instructional information, it's you guys, because no one in your personal life can say this stuff to you. You will not in any way digest it, nor accept it even. So it is great and very important that you have some sort of outlet of information that you can go to that can tell you things as they are and not as you need to hear them. Because there's that it's nothing personal. It's nothing personal. And I think that's what trips you guys up Generally, you know how to sift between good and bad advice, but when you think it's something personal and it's critical, you can't see past that. But I'm being critical, but it's nothing personal. This really is something that you don't have to give in to. You don't have to be mixy Libra energy with this Mercury going retrograde. You don't have to push forward in ways that only speak to you being wounded and you trying to run from that wound. Let's not be obvious about these things. Let's actually just get to the bottom of them. Let's not let our actions betray us, you know, where we're the last to know. Everyone else is like, oh yeah, I could tell that was really bothering you. And you're like, oh my God, I didn't even know. But most, 9 times out of 10 right now with this Jupiter Mercury opposition, whatever you're thinking, it's not true. It's not true. It speaks to something else. It speaks to how worthy you think you are of love, attention, affection. If there's anyone around you that you in any way respect or love, you're going to exhibit that wound around them. Because if you feel unworthy of love, as soon as you get around somebody with your romantic interest who you respect, you might start to feel weird about it. Now, if you're super, super secure, then this could be the other way around. You could also be in some completely unforeseen way to you and in no way encouraged, be the center of attention amongst your romantic interests, friends. So friends and romance, and where the crossroads meet of those two is where a lot of that mixy oppositional energy is for you. So be careful. My advice is don't really believe anything right now. Not what you see, not what you hear. Just let it all pass for now. And in a couple of weeks, you can get back to it. Let the dust settle. And what you may find when the dust settles is that there are parts of you that are still running the show way too much. Pains within you that you think you're done with, but they're still there. And you, if you think that you can isolate and get away from the pain, you can't, because certain types of pain, it won't even rear its head until you get into another situation where it would be triggered. So you can't be isolated and alone and be like, oh, I've figured out romantic relationships, I am healed now. As soon as you get into something with somebody again, boom, that's when it'll come up. And so whatever has happened to trigger this new round of, even if it's just this mixy Libra energy, this new round of self-reflection, because that friendship, romance, that's just one of many, during this retrograde motion, one of many wounds that are coming up. We're in a full moon right now. Like, you're being exposed, and every exposure harkens back to some deep, embarrassing, making you too vulnerable wound or piece of information that you definitely don't want to share. And yet, if there are people around, you're going to end up sharing it. That's okay. Now, if there's anyone around you, by the same token, before we leave the friendship and the romance thing, if there's anyone around you who keeps saying that they just want to be your friend, they're lying, they're playing games, they're wasting your time, they're not being honest. I don't know how many different ways I can put it, but you just need to call them out on it and be like, yeah, I don't believe you. Because you don't believe them. Okay? Let's see, what else? You guys do this thing where you mess with the music a lot when you drive. You're very accident prone all through September and October. So I wouldn't do stuff like that. No texting, no changing the music, none of that when you're driving. Make your driving playlist before you do your driving, whatever. Don't mess with things while you're driving. It's important enough that I made a note of it. So, if you are in a couple, and regardless of how you deal with this Mercury retrograde energy, well, all the planets being retrograde energy, if you find that you just can't get along, that you just can't make it work, taking a small break might not be a bad idea if you just can't stop fighting, but just know that usually when people take a small break, it's not a small break. It's just a break. It's just a break up, right? So if you're ready for that emotionally, mentally, then yeah, but if you can't stop fighting, if this Mars and Gemini energy has just gotten on top of you, and no matter what, you just cannot seem to, you know, if you've tried getting away from it all, if you've tried disconnecting, if you've tried, you know, going ghost on social media, whatever, and you still feel this discontent, I mean, then yeah, then small or big break, what does it matter? Right? Because if you can't stop being angry, if you can't stop bringing up the pain for whatever reason, you know, maybe it's the transits that are doing it, maybe it's the full moon in Pisces, whatever it is that's making it come up. If you can't stop it, and if you can't communicate past the pain, then yeah, it might be a good idea to take a little break. And it's really overwhelming Virgo season anyway. It's really easy to do, you know, the whole overthinking thing. It's really easy to overdo that. It's really easy to overdo the martyr thing. It's really easy to overdo the victim thing. It's really easy to dive deep into a pool of self-pity. And the worst part is that any of these actions later, you'll be doubly angry with yourself for letting yourself be this way, because it's just not you at all. It's way too indulgent in a way that you would never allow, because it's messy. And maybe that's the way to get through to you right now, Leo, is that, you know, the mess, the mess is not becoming. This month can be messy if you don't watch it. If you're looking for quick fixes, and, you know, you're being impatient with people, and you're pushing people because you're communicating from a place of aggression and anger and Mars and Gemini and lack and what the hell is going on, and everything seems like it's being somehow hidden from you, or, you know, kept from you. That's a hard place to communicate from with just a person who's entering your life for a few moments, or for a few hours, or for a few days. It's very hard for them to understand how deeply disturbed you may be by what's going on around you. Okay? They can't feel the Mars and Gemini wreaking havoc because you can't stop getting angry about things. They can't feel how you feel that you are being left out and in the dark about really important things, especially if this has to do with family. They can just feel the impatience. They can feel that lack that's driving you. Hi, Leo. So I completely forgot to cut and then go to the extended. So I'm just adding this where the extended will then move on from. So this is the end of the general video. I love you. The extended will be on Patreon and on Vimeo. I will get better at this. I was just in such a flow. I was like, wait, what happened? And then, yeah, it was over. I love you, love you. See you in the extended in just a second.